right, so what I got here are the students of the martial art instructor course for the Marine Corps martial arts program. Kind of how we talked about a month ago, I think it was, when we talked. They're familiar and they have context with your video, the Paralyzed to Peaks.
Okay.
What I want to do is kind of I'm going to kind of guide this, like, and it's Q&A. You can ask questions, they'll ask questions, but I'll kind of guide it. We got up to about an hour, hour and a half at the most, just due to schedule and other commitments.
Cool.
So maybe take this time and just kind of introduce yourself, like who you are, where you're from, all that good stuff, so they can get a context into what happened, and we'll talk about the event.
Yeah. So what's up, everyone? I'm Jack Ryan Greener. Jack Ryan, named after the Tom Clancy character, ironically. And I grew up in San Diego. Ironically, I spent a ton of time at the Marine Corps Air Base in San Diego, as well as Camp Pendleton from like my early teenage years. And I grew up surfing. I grew up wrestling, doing jiu-jitsu, spearfishing, freediving, all the cool shit that you see on social media. That was kind of like my teenage and childhood. So grew up pretty fortunate. And yeah, I got into martial arts from a young age. I think I was like 5 or 6, karate and taekwondo as a young kid. And I was telling Adam and Josh when we first chatted, I was like, I was that kid that when we sparred, I kept punching kids in the face and just was causing bloody noses and stuff. So I grew up in that kind of that martial arts background, and one thing led to another, and went into wrestling in high school. My dad also wrestled at ASU in their club program, and he was my coach quite often all the way through high school, and then went to San Diego State. And at the time I was part of the MMA club and was highly engaged with that. And one thing led to another. And I moved out to Nicaragua back in 2015 to be a professional surf guide and instructor. And I lived at a Brazilian-owned camp that actually ran jiu-jitsu like seminars, as well as like the surf camp on the side. So you had this fucking gringo come in and thinking he's hot shit because he wrestled his entire life and all that, just getting absolutely decimated by these, white belts, blue belts, purple belts, black belts. And it was very humbling being a 18, 19-year-old kid at the time. And I came back, I think it was like late 2015 to go back to school. And I just knew, I was like, I have to do jiu-jitsu. I really want to get involved in more grappling and more like combat sports stuff. And ended up training at City of Champions originally down in El Cajon in San Diego, and then transferred to the arena under Barrett Yoshida in Point Loma. And so Barrett Yoshida, for those of you
who don't know Barrett, like we talked, so you guys are tracking. I competed against Barrett Yoshida at an event called the Eddie Bravo Invitational, and on top of the stage in front of Joe Rogan, all these guys, and he choked me out. Granted, Barrett Yoshida is also a 3-time world champ and ADCC medalist, which is like the Olympics for jiu-jitsu. Just like to throw that out there.
Yeah, no, and he's a tiny little man, and he's incredibly fierce. Like he's legitimately terrifying, and he will fuck you up, because he definitely fucked me up numerous times.
And he's old too.
Yeah, and I think I don't know if he fought in Pride, but he was one of those original guys who started like the MMA circuit in SoCal and whatnot. So it was a great lineage to be a part of at the time. And eventually my main training partner was 6'5". He's a purple belt now, ex-UCSD basketball player. He pushed me weird, just being the freak he is, blew my pec off, right? Like straight from the bicep all the way into the middle of the chest. And I had been commuting from North County, San Diego down to Point Loma at the time. And I was like, I can't do this as a college student, right? I don't have a lot of money. And so I switched gyms up to Del Mar, and eventually I was training up there post pec reattachment and all that sort of thing. And just kind of getting into the nitty gritty of of kind of why we're all talking right now. I was training. I don't, just like any other, you guys watch any day like any other, you guys watch the film. So woke up, went for my 6 a.m. surf check, right? Just gonna go get coffee, say what's up to the boys. Went to Swami's. If any of y'all are from San Diego, you'll know that spot. Was like, oh, the surf is absolute dog shit. I think I'm just gonna go back and check my calendar and see what's going on for studying and for work. And at the time I was in luxury real estate, like getting paid stupid money for doing pretty much nothing all day. So I was living comfortably and I was like, all right, well, I don't have anything on till, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. I think I'm going to go to the noon jiu-jitsu class. And I was like, oh, I haven't gone to no-gi in a while, and rocked up to class, go through warm-ups. And at the time I was actively competing on like the Southern California competition circuit. I'd been to Mexico City. I'd been to Thailand. I trained extensively in Costa Rica while I lived out there in 2017. And so my level and intensity was that much higher. So I often got paired with the higher level belts, just given my wrestling background and quite frankly, just the ability to want to kick the shit out of people because it's just fun. And I kept getting paired up with the black belt instructor, who I will not name, but we basically went for tit for tat, multiple rounds. And I think it was about 12:46 p.m. We go into another round. I go into protective position in turtle, and yeah, go ahead.
The turtle's when like a person goes kind of on all four and curls up, like face down. Right? So
Yeah.
It's a defensive position, but recognizing that, because we see a lot of our Marines in sparring when we do that, right? All right, so go ahead, Jack. Thank you.
Yeah. So go into turtle position. I'm just completely shell up, blocking everything. He proceeds to put his knee into the back of my neck and then torques me over. And I was telling Adam and Josh this in our original call. You guys, I'm sure some of you guys are from the Midwest. Everyone's chopped wood before, right? What it sounds like when a tree breaks in the woods is what it sounds like when your neck is broken. It's just the loudest crack you could ever imagine. And as he torqued me over, I rolled onto my side, and immediately the first thought was, I'm gonna be okay. And then the next thought was, holy fucking shit, I can't move. And everyone stopped in the class. Things just became a bit of a blur. I'd had probably a meditation practice of at least a year or two at this point. I'd already been journaling, and the only reason I didn't go into full-on shock at that time was, one, years of martial arts, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, and free diving as well, learning to control your breath. But two, the meditation component of, okay, shit has really, really hit the fan here. And I have to control my breath. Otherwise things get way worse. Q911, ambulance comes in, they strip me naked on the mats. They load me up into the like the board where they isolate your neck, cart me into the ambulance, and then still trying to breathe, but at this point shock's starting to set in. And I remember looking up at this giant ginger EMT with the biggest fucking mustache you've ever seen in your life. And I looked up at him, I was like, am I gonna die? Am I gonna die? Like, I can't fucking move. Like, and then that's when I started to like cry. And I was like, I still have to keep it together. And he wasn't saying anything. EMT's jobs obviously are just to get you from point A to point B and get you there alive. Get to Scripps ICU La Jolla within about, I want to say 12 to 15 minutes from Del Mar. Immediately, mom and dad are on either side as I get carted out. And I'm in shock by this time. And I go, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Like, I do not want this to happen. I don't, I don't know how this happened. I'm sorry. I'm just sorry, right? Obviously, then they're smiling at me like you did nothing fucking wrong. Like you shut up, you're fine. But obviously not fine. Carted me into the hospital. Cue a series of MRIs, tests, et cetera, et cetera. And that's when I kind of like blacked out a little, brought me into the bedroom. They go, hey, the surgeon comes in, goes, hey, Jack, Dr. Kevin Yu, who was in the film, he goes, hey, you're paralyzed from the neck down at C4 and C5. Things do not look good, like at all. You have a spinal cord injury. We don't know how severe. We just know that it is incomplete. It didn't sever the spinal cord. What we're going to do now is put you into traction. And so what they do is they take screws and they drill into the side of your head. Now, I don't know if you can see, but there's scars right here.
I see it.
Yeah, so they drill into the side of your head while you're conscious, and there's no fucking painkillers.
So what
So
was that pain like right there then?
So I'd never seen pain in my life. This was the first time I saw pain in my life, and it's exactly what they say it's like in the movies. Like you see, like I saw pink splotches and flowers all across my vision. And they just kept just drilling further in, and then you feel like your head's about to explode. And then what they do is they have to relieve pressure off the spinal column because the vertebrae will be putting pressure on the spinal cord, and long term that can affect your healing. So they start stacking weights. It's like 2 pounds, 4 pounds, 6 pounds. They got all the way up to, I believe it was 27 or 29 pounds. And I go, guys, I think like I see pain. Like I'm not well. And the fucking nurse who's standing by ready with just lidocaine needles goes, say no more, and just starts stabbing my head with like lidocaine needles to kill all the pain.
And that nurse, is that your buddy that climbed Mount Whitney with you? Is that the
No. That was I remember his face. It was just this nurse, this bald nurse just next to me. That's all I remember. And he just blasted me with lidocaine and kind of went out after that. I missed one point right before they started stacking the weights on to relieve the pressure. I told my dad to go get his phone out, and I think this was in the film. I've watched 100 times. I should know this. I tell my dad, I'm like, hey, like we need to let like all my friends know, like we need to let our family know. And so he whips out the phone, right? And I go, hey, like hit record. He's like, okay. And I go, hey guys, I'm a little fucked up right now. I'm paralyzed at C4 and C5. Things are not looking great, but I'll be walking again in 6 months. No one had any fucking idea at the time. So cue and video. That evening, all afternoon, I'd been telling my nurse, I was like, hey, something's really wrong here. And they're like, well, you're paralyzed. So yeah, there's a lot wrong here, but like your vitals check out. And I was like, no. Like, I know my body, like there's something really wrong internally. And I don't know, like something's just wrong. And I kept telling my nurses that, and they kept checking me, and they're like, no, you're good. And about the accident was at 12:50 p.m. And about 13 hours after, around 1 a.m. on November 30th, 2018, woke up screaming bloody murder. Like, I'm going to fucking die. I'm going to die. And Justin, my nurse, comes rushing in, who's the one who did Mount Whitney with me, runs a full like diagnostic. I'm completely incapacitated. I'm stroking out as clots from my neck are passing through my brain. And cue surgery. The only reason I'm actually talking to you guys today is because Justin had a gut feeling that something was still really wrong and he didn't know what it was. So instead of sitting all the way down at the end of the hall out of sight, where like all the nurses sit at the main desk, he decided to sit right across from my room doing his work. That is literally the only reason I'm alive and don't have any permanent brain damage.
So with that, did he ever explain to you why he did that? Like you're saying he had that gut feeling, but has he ever talked about it, like what his body was feeling? Like, did you notice his heart rate was up the whole time when he was around you as the ICU nurse?
Yeah, he told me. So I found this out only like 5 months ago, 6 months ago. Like this was, yeah, he didn't tell me about this until like after Mount Whitney. He's like, yeah, probably the only, what I told you guys is like the only reason you're alive is because he said, I had this horrible gut feeling that I had to be near you. Right. He's like, I could not explain why, but I just felt this gravity, like this pull towards you. And I don't, whether you believe in a higher power or not, I'm not really that type of person, but that's the only reason. He's like, I was just this gut feeling and this like impending sense of doom. And that's why he came in.
Got any questions on that or anything? It's open, you know?
Yeah, free for all.
They had a pretty rough sparring session yesterday. They're probably still crying about it. They did some stand-up striking, some Brazilian jiu-jitsu,
Okay.
workouts, everything. So it's been about 2 weeks of just wear and tear and grind. So with it, they're being taught, a lot of them are very familiar. So everyone in this room, kind of behind me and on the side of me, they're non-commissioned officers, so meaning they've been in for a couple years. They usually have a couple Marines underneath their direct command. So a lot of the things that you're talking about, they've seen, not in regards to your injury, but they seem like, okay, I need to kind of supervise, be around some of my Marines. I know something's not really going right. They've seen a lot of sparring events, and we get a lot of Marines that were wrestlers, kind of like you and I growing up.
Yeah.
So that turtle position is a very common thing. So this course is teaching them how to not only instruct and teach these martial art techniques that we have, like we have a set curriculum, but also how to supervise what we call free sparring, which is live rolls and, you know, striking and all that stuff. So your position is actually a very common one. And it's sad what happened to you being a black belt. He knows better than to do that.
Right.
A lot of times, a lot of these Marines, they're ignorant because they never trained. So
I've trained with you guys before. I've trained with SEALs before, and it's a different, it was great sparring because you really have to like learn control, because at the arena, I trained with so many SEALs, right? They come in, you go, hey, like, what do you do for a living? Like, what do you do for fun outside of work? They're like, oh, you know, we work on boats. I'm like, it's classic response of, oh, you're a SEAL, aren't you? Or you're a SWIC or something like that. And they'll go, oh yeah, I'm on so-and-so, or they'll go, I'm on X boat team. And I remember, there was this giant 6'4" motherfucker, 220 white belt, right? And you guys don't, it's a different level of intensity. I remember I have a buddy who's a SWIC operator, and wrestling him growing up, it was just like, there's like high level, and then there's a notch up above that. And like, that's what it was like training with SEALs and oftentimes Marines. So I'm very familiar with getting quite beat up even after a 20-minute, 30-minute session.
So with your experience, like for them to become instructors and supervising and also training, like they get in and actually fight their guys too.
Yeah.
What are some lessons that you have learned, like not only like post event, like from your injury, but before? Like, what do you recommend for them? Like when it comes to training in martial arts, because it's good from an outsider.
Yeah. I was big. I liked honestly, top pressure was big for me. Like if I can control somebody's face, this is specifically what I used to do with my shoulders and my hips, right? It opens up the different angle, the ability to cut the different angles. So prior, being 6'3", I'm about 175 right now. I used to be about 185, like ex-powerlifter too, so much bigger than I currently am. And it was all top pressure and all like cutting angles with hips and knees. And so for me, especially when I got into side control, it was always like control and then shoulder in, and to negate and like to cut off their hips from being able to like re-guard essentially. That was something really big for me. Post in turn, like I can't physically defend myself. I can't run. I can't even throw a punch really. I don't think I'd really have much behind it. And so now it's now about being more observational, right? And recognizing what's going on in the room or on the street around me, because I can't get out of the way like somebody else can. That's like a car's coming. You have, I mean, y'all won't know this, but you have about 14 seconds to cross the street when you're in a wheelchair. And then you can't get out of the way, right? The limit is, so you have to be constantly aware of everything going on. You can't be on your phone. Like I can't even look at my phone when I'm walking anyway. And so post, it's trying to look for the issues that come up before they come up. And so when I go climb, right, and I'm maybe a little bit run out on a section, when you fall, when any of you fall, you bounce. I go thud. I don't bounce. My legs don't react. My arms don't react. My hands don't react, right? So I have to think, for better or for worse, 3 to 4 moves ahead. And so there's been times where I have been run out and I've been like, this is not a good section. And if I don't figure this out right now, I'm going to break my arm. I'm going to break my ankle. I'm going to break my leg. And so now more just about observation and planning 2, 3, 4 steps in advance.
So what do we call that in the Marine Corps? Think about John Boyd. OODA loop, right? So we have something like maneuver warfare. A former Air Force fighter pilot, he came up with pretty much the maneuver warfare doctrine, which is what the military uses, and it was put to the test in Desert Storm. Took us 30 days to take out the 4th biggest military in the world back in Desert Storm. So it's observe, orient, decide, and act, which is exactly what you're saying, and that resonates with the martial arts. So do you guys have anything on that, like any questions? Or
I know y'all are tired too. So
I have a question.
yeah.
So like, in a bout, if you're say you're ground fighting, how do you like on the fly use that OODA loop method? Because you can use it in a bout, but like, how do you think quick enough under all that pressure? Is it like breath control? Is that a big thing?
like, are you talking like in combat sports, like in jujitsu and training prior? Or are you talking post? I missed a little bit of that.
Like during, like in the middle of a bout.
Let's say pre, and then also post, because they'll sometimes have a student who's significantly better than them. Like they're just gonna have somebody come in and they can just smash, you know? So yesterday when they did the fighting, they had to do the ground fighting with me. Most of them did. And if I want to get 100,
that's tough.
If I want to get 100 taps, I can do that. However, I'm trying to make them tired and miserable, get in their pain bubble, get inside their head, because they're tired and they got to keep going. So just like, you know, you were talking about a few minutes ago, just tiring them out. But let's say they got someone that they know, like this guy is he can do a lot of damage to me. How does your mind kind of work? Because I know we're trying to tap into kind of that mental, that spiritual and character kind of side of things. Physical, but
it was prior. You know, I noted, like, I grew up freediving. Like the freediving class and certification I took when I was 16 has formed my entire rest of my life. And I'm 26 now. So when I was under pressure prior in like a rolling situation, it was always when we panic, we breathe from our upper chest, right? And our breath shortens. And so then it becomes a game of being conscious enough to breathe through your diaphragm and protect your diaphragm. That's why you don't want somebody's knee on your belly, because then it's cutting off that deep breath. And that's when, panic starts to like occur, especially when you guys are probably rolling with Adam and he's executing ridiculous top pressure. You're like, I have no fucking idea how to handle any of this right now. It all stems from the breathwork portion of that freediving course. It goes diaphragm, intercostals, lower lungs, upper lungs, esophagus, mouth, lips, right? And so you start with, you put your hand on your stomach and you go, and then you work your way up. So then you go intercostals, lower lungs, upper. You see my shoulders raised, right? And then you go through your esophagus, your mouth, your lips, and you seal your lips, and then you begin your dive. It's the same thing when you're in a stressful situation and rolling, right? You may not be able to do those full deep breaths, but so long as you're able to maintain the deep breaths through the diaphragm, that's how I maintain calm. And I think that's how anyone should do it.
So now kind of tapping into, so we know, you had a lot of experience outside of many different activities, different hobbies, because not to pick on a lot of Marines, I'm just speaking in generalities. A lot of them are like, off work, go to the gym, bro lift, done. Like off work, go to the gym, bro lift, done. Eat, sleep, bro lift. Like, and then when they actually start fighting, they don't know how to move. Like they're stiff, they have no cardio, they have nothing. So these guys have to be the ones that kind of train them and like really kind of tap into, okay, at one point, your muscular strength is going to go out the window. Then the second, your cardio is going to go out the window. Now it starts kicking in technique and how to like breathe and control yourself and your emotions. So the incident happened, and now it's post. And in the video, you start to kind of feel your thumb and your toes and start going from there. So what was it that exactly, like, you just had this, let's say, vision or so, lack of better terms, that I want to go hike Mount Whitney? Like, do you remember where you were? Were you in the hospital? Were you at home? Like, what was it that gave you that resiliency to push?
Yeah, so Mount Whitney was a goal prior to the accident, right? I did San Gorgonio on a whim. I was like, 11,500 feet. I did that really, really quickly. I practically ran up that mountain.
You guys know where San Gorgonio is? The Twin Hat Palm Marines? When you look at Big Bear from Twin Hat Palm, so like Joshua Tree, when you look at Big Bear and you see that high peak with all the snow, that's San Gorgonio. Okay. All right. You got to give them a reference.
Yeah. So
they're always in the gym, bro lifting. They don't look outside.
Hey, I was a bro lifter too. Trust me. At one point, I was 200 pounds with a 500-pound deadlift and like an ungodly bench and squat. So trust me, I was one of those guys too until I came to my senses and I was like, oh, I'd get the shit kicked out of me. This 200 pounds is worth nothing. But I did San Gorgonio on a whim and I got to the peak. I remember I took a selfie and I took a video and just talking to myself. I'm like, well, the next logical step is Mount Whitney. And so then that was going to be my 2019 goal. Obviously, shit hit the fan, broke my neck, paralysis, stroke. It carted out to Denver, Colorado to go to a world-class rehab facility called Craig Hospital, which is I live about 15 minutes away from currently. It was February 2019. I was still in inpatient rehab. I was exiting the trauma-induced like fight or flight like brain state. And so all these like emotions and feelings were coming back of like it's really, trauma does really weird things to your body. It ages your body, one. And my aunt like pointed this out to me. She goes, it was February 2019. She looked at me and she's like, you looked like you you look 10 years younger right now. And it was like, I was coming out of this fight or flight mentality. And on top of that, like I started to be attracted to women again. Like my sexuality was just fucking gone. And then the next thing I know, I had a friend visit, and I was looking at my phone, and I had a photo of Mount Whitney in my phone. And I was just like, and I was just barely walking at the time, just like standing up, like assisted harnesses, like walking in like a robot essentially. And I was just like, I don't know when this is going to happen, but I made a promise to myself that I would go do this mountain at some point. And whether that's a year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years, 10 years, I need to go do this mountain. And I basically attached my entire identity to it. And I remember I posted, it was right when I got back on social media too, because I just gotten enough like hand function to type on my phone. And I just put a post on my Instagram story saying, I'm going to go do this. And it was just the picture of Whitney that I had. And so that was February 2019. And I just kept progressing. I kept my walking got better. I went from an assistive harness and like a robotic walking trainer, for lack of a better word, to a like rolling walker where my elbows were on the walker and I'm like waddling essentially, to then an old man walker that you see 75-year-olds use, right, to get around with the little tennis balls on the bottom so it doesn't like catch on the cracks. And then eventually
And they give
towards
you old man shoes too, like the New Balance, like the white.
no, I was in Nikes, which are fucking horrible to learn to walk in again because they're so soft. But and then it transitioned into forearm crutches. And then that was very early March. I finally walked across the bridge to Independence, which was in the film. And as I said in the film, I exited into outpatient rehab. I was still in a wheelchair, but I was walking around on forearm crutches more and more. And I was just like, I had it in my head. I was like, this is probably going to happen sooner than I realize. And so I spent all of the rest of 2019 when I returned, I believe it was April 3rd, 2019, back to San Diego. Lived at home, started dating a girl, reconnecting with the world, and relearning my entire body, like relearning how to cook, how to shit, how to pee, like all that. And about 6 months after, I was fortunate I'd been traveling solo since the time I was about 16. So I was like, this is a huge part of my personality that I need to regain. I went to Vietnam by myself, barely able to walk at the time, still in horrible pain. And I backpacked all of Vietnam, backpacked quite a bit of Thailand. I was actually in Thailand 9 days before my accident occurred too. So it's kind of like this full circle moment of like, I'm back.
So
Like,
when you went to
I'm back,
Vietnam,
baby.
what time, what month and year was that?
What year was that? That was August 2019. So I had gotten out of the hospital.
Like, yeah, 10, like 9, 10 months after you had your neck broken.
Yep.
Oh,
Post quadriplegia. And that's where I was exposed to climbing. So it was I had been reached out to about like adaptive climbing in the gym, but I never climbed outdoors ever, or really like growing up either. And my first time climbing outdoors was in Cat Ba in Vietnam, which is like these crazy, limestone rock like formations on these islands. And then got exposed there. Like I was like, oh, like I fucking suck at this, but like I can do it, you know. Went to Mexico City after with my girlfriend at the time, explored that, thought I had a stroke in Mexico City on my way to the pyramids. We were in the bus and so we were on our way to Pyramid of Sun and the Moon in Mexico City. And I started to lose all my vision and feeling on the left side of my body. And I was like, am I really going to have a fucking stroke in Mexico right now in this goddamn bus? And so my girlfriend at the time was a nurse. She ran stroke protocol. I literally lost everything here over. Started to panic. And we think it was a transemic ischiatic attack, which is basically a fake stroke, where a clot briefly passes through. Flew back, went to the hospital, got checked out, everything was good. And then my parents basically went like, hey, you got to go get yourself a job. If you can go travel the world, you got to get the fuck out of our house. And that was some tough love.
They're firm, they're fair.
Yeah.
They don't. Now, on that, I want to kind of caveat on that, I want to hone in. So your parents, let's say for like military sake, they're kind of like the leaders, almost like of the household at the time. They're holding you accountable, and they're, even though a very tragic thing happened in the past, they're still like, hey, you got to move forward and go on. So if anyone got any questions on that or anything to say. Yeah, how does that resonate with us in the Marines?
Pushing past our limits, pushing past our fears.
Pushing past our limits and fears. So would you say it's safe to assume that you having that goal of Mount Whitney, that gave you purpose during your rehabilitation also?
Yeah.
Like, it's like, hey, I got a realistic but hard goal. That is, for most average Americans, Mount Whitney is a butt kicker. You know, you and I have been up to the summit. We see people constantly like dying along the way, not even make it. And then here you are, quadriplegic at one point, and then go and summit. So with that being said, like, what advice do you have for, let's say, some of these Marines, like, they're young still, most of what, average, probably 22 years old here? Probably some of you aren't even allowed to drink. Yeah.
Who's the oldest in the room besides Adam, just out of curiosity?
He's in the back, it's too cool.
How old are you?
Mendes, how old are you?
31.
31. All right, you're older than me. But we're all relatively the same age, more or less.
But a lot of them, like with us, like transitioning, it's scary for a lot of people. It's like fear of freedom, like a prisoner. Like, I want to get out of prison, but if I kind of don't, kind of like the Marines, like I want to get out, but I kind of don't, especially with like gas prices nowadays and stuff. So they're having that purpose, like, and everything. Like, what is some advice that you'll have for them? Like, hey, if you feel like you're in a rut, you're trying to find like what to do to kind of push, like, what are some things that people have talked to you about? Because I'm pretty sure you weren't like, okay, I'm gonna go to Vietnam and go climbing. Like, you had support, like you had people around you kind of helping you out, like, hey, let's go do this.
Yeah, it was I'll be the first one to tell you, people look at my recovery and my trajectory and how fast it was, and they go, wow, like you worked really hard and like you're so amazing, and I can't believe you did that. And I roll my eyes at them. I'm like, one, fuck you, because I am the product of 100 different people, and I'm like a very supportive community of individuals who, like my parents, like I got back from traveling and they go, you need to get the fuck out of our house and go get a job. Like, if you can go climb in Vietnam, you can go work your job and make a life for yourself and make a living for yourself. And that accountability aspect from your tribe, is massive. And I've noticed even more so now is like, I've skyrocketed my own personal career within the past year by being surrounded by, in the business world, these elite level sales individuals, these CEOs, these CMOs who I talk to on a daily basis. It's hard to not elevate yourself when you're surrounded by that caliber of individual. Like I interact with multi-gajillionaires on a regular basis who are actually good people and actually want to see me succeed. And I'll give an example. My CEO at my current role, 3-time founder, 0 to 100 million ARR. So on his third, he sold it to what we know as Adobe Sign now. So anytime you sign a contract, that's the software he made and developed. And I have a healthy amount of respect for him and a healthy amount of fear of him as well, because he holds everyone accountable. He sets these high expectations and it's on you to rise to that level. And everyone on our team on a regular basis does. And it's that standard, and having that community around you to uplift you and get to that point is truly what gets you to that next level, whether it's exiting the military, rising in the military, what may have you. You can't do it as an individual, right? You just can't. There's just no way. And I, even at my lowest, I was suicidal May 2019, August 2019, and November 2019. And I was stuck in my basement in my parents' place for 2 weeks at a time, unable to get out of that basement. The only reason I got through that and I didn't fucking blow my own head off was because of the community that I had. So yeah, it's all about the tribe. It's all about the tribe.
So who are some people like around that you guys have that can help you out with that stuff? Like, so you heard Jack talk about like CEOs. He also has like kind of other members of his tribe. So think about like, okay, parents, family, you know, whether you have parents or not, you probably have some family that's going to hold you accountable. So you see, and then also surrounding yourself with individuals that inspire to do great things in life, personal and professional. So if you have that one individual that just doesn't want to do anything, probably just sits there and look at TikTok videos all day, is that really going to make you a better person?
No.
Right? And you notice also in the civilian world, hey, people are still held accountable to a high standard. It's just not a Marine thing where, you know, keep your hands out of your pockets, don't walk and talk on your cell phone. There's a purpose to everything. All right? And feel free, like you guys can interject and ask questions or give comments, but don't think that you can't talk, all right?
I got a question.
Yeah, we got a question for you, Dan.
Yeah.
Hey, this is Cesar Mendez. It's a privilege meeting you. One of the questions I have is, so before your accident, you had this activity that, like, you used to do Jiu-Jitsu, used to go diving, used to do a lot of things that kept you physically fit, and at the same time, just kept you going after the accident. What adjustments did you have to make to continue that lifestyle, or are you doing anything else now to better yourself?
Yeah. So the question was like prior, I obviously was hyperactive, like in a pretty elite shape. It's, you guys are gonna laugh. When I was in the hospital, I went back into that gym bro mentality of like, wake up, get to my therapy. I would tell my family, my friends, I was like, if somebody was in my way on the way to therapy, I was taking my proverbial axe and literally slaughtering them in the hall so I could get to my weight room, right? So it went back to the foundation that I created originally from like wrestling and the weight room. Is like that, like the weights were my original love, and then it transitioned into combat sports, right? So I went back to that. I became obsessed with like trying to transfer myself into a chair by myself, right? And then it became, okay, I'm just going to lift a 2-pound dumbbell. And then it transitioned into, you know, okay, I'm going to do a leg press. And then it just kept snowballing. And now it's, the weightlifting is still the foundation, right? But now it's not the jiu-jitsu, it's not the diving, it's not the surfing that I grew up doing. Now it's the rock climbing and it's the biking. So I can actually ride a bike now. And those are the two things that keep me in pretty decent shape. Like the rock climbing is the community component too, as well, right? So my community is rock climbing, and that's when I can't do a certain climb, I'm still able to engage with my friends who are there and that are my support system. The biking component is what I can do, and that's what biking is replace surfing, right? So I can go out on my e-bike and I can go ride for 30 miles by myself, and I can have that time where, you know, I'm not fucking staring at this piece of shit and I'm just in my head and I'm forced to go and be outside and be present. So I've come full circle. I had surfing, which was the individual component of fitness. I had jiu-jitsu, which was the community component. So now post neck break, now it's cycling. the individual, and climbing the community. And I have the privilege to go. I'm moving into my van in 10 days. And I have the privilege to go and climb all over the US. So it's been cool to see it finally come full circle.
You still gonna be in Joshua Tree in April?
Oh yeah, I'm fighting a lawsuit right now, but yeah, I'll be there. I'll be back there. Yeah. So
That's kind of fucked up. Someone would try to sue you or something. Like, got hurt.
it's the other way around, but yeah.
No worries. I like how you bring that community and that individual, because just because you can't do something that you love, that you originally loved, there's still more out there that you can still do. So it's not giving up.
Yeah, it's adapting, right? Like adapting to, like I said, I can't run. I walk with a cane now. And it's just, at first I was actually very against using a cane. I despised looking like I was disabled. Now it's like, I have my cane and I park the C's at bars. I'm like, get the fuck out of my way. I earned this right, along with my handicap placard. So it's truly, it's adapting. And I pray that none of you guys ever have to, go through something that I went through, but I promise you, if you do, where there's a will, there is a way, and you would be surprised the creative ways humans adapt to tragic circumstances like mine. So
let's get into Mount Whitney and when you were there. So we see the video, we see how you're kind of, you have the struggles and everything. It's weird how this Sierra Nevada mountains can just have like that weird quicksand out there that just drags your feet. And what a lot of people don't see in videos is like the high winds that happen up there, especially with someone like your case. It was your right leg, correct? That was really immobile for a while.
Yeah.
So wind just beating on you.
Yeah. The Sierras are a dry and terrible place. And there's no water up there too a lot of the time. So that first day, right, in the film where my leg first 2 days where my right leg wasn't working, we also ran out of water on both days. So it became that mental game of, say, we were talking about, being under pressure and say being under Adam and he's just tearing you apart, right? And you're trying to breathe through it. I went back into my head. I'm like, my right leg literally is neurologically not working. Like the signals are not connecting. I have to go to that place where I'm just going to commit, and it's so fucking cliche. I'm just going to commit to left foot hobble, left foot hobble, left foot hobble over and over again until I get to my exit point.
Okay. Anyone got anything?
Yeah, I got some. So when you were going up there, you talked about something I really liked. You said you were trying to detach from the objective and have fun with it.
Yeah.
So is that something that you sort of overall have adapted into your life now, or is that just kind of a Mount Whitney thing?
No, that's a life thing, and it's a very, very difficult thing to do because I have two frames of mind. I have my able-bodied mind, right? And knowing what I could do prior, and then I have my disabled mind and knowing what the reality is right now. And so when I said when I was around the fire, and last year, which would have been 2020, we got canceled because of fires. I was so attached to the outcome of finishing this thing. If I had done the hike in 2020, I probably would have had to be helicoptered out. I just was not ready. So when I said I'm detached from the outcome and I just want to have fun with this, it was me releasing the control that I felt I needed to have, and just understanding that I'm going to get up this mountain come hell or high water, even if I have to crawl, right? But just detaching from the success component. It wasn't, as I said in the film, it wasn't about hitting the peak. It was about showing that, okay, I was broken by circumstance, but I can still go do these things. And it was more so proving to myself that I can go hit that proverbial summit, whatever it is. It just so happened to be a mountain peak at the time.
Thanks, Jack.
Yep.
With those who went and climbed the peak with you, you're good friends and you're really good friend now, like the nurse that you had. Did you give them any guidelines before, like, hey, if I'm going through this, leave me the fuck alone, or this happens? Like, did you set some parameters so that way? Because a lot of times during hard events and stuff, there's always, like, you look at like Mount Everest, you have those guiding communities that can just pick up someone, throw them on their back and take them to the top of the mountain. Then they're like, I claimed it. Did you put some parameters like, hey, I need to be able to do X, Y, and Z in order to fulfill my objective that I had, my goal?
Yeah. So I told them one of the main things was, you see in the film, they followed me with a hand on the back of my pack, right? Falls to me are really dangerous. So I conveyed to them, hey, when we're going through steep sections or I'm trying to speed up my pace, I need you guys to keep a hand on me for safety purposes, especially when we start to get into elevation and like the alpine, where you take a fall, you're falling 1,000 feet. And I had quite a few of those falls going up, on summit day. So that was one of them. The other one was, I conveyed to them, I was like, hey, if you guys walk in front of me, about 5 to 10 feet in front of me, I am going to want to stab you in the throat, because it is going to get into my disabled mind. And I'm going to say, wow, I cannot do this because my able-bodied friends are running ahead of me. So I had to convey to them that boundary of, hey, let me lead point, because the moment you guys run in front of me, I'm going to mentally beat myself up, because I know that I should be able to stay with you, but I literally physically can't. So those were the main two ones: of hand on the pack, that boundary of keep me safe, especially over dicey terrain. And the other one was let me lead point, especially when we got to the peak of my body was starting to give out. And I was hell-bent on getting to that peak. And we spent about 20, 30 minutes at the top. But what you all didn't see was my friends, my team, half my team ran off down the mountain to go set up camp. And so they left all their packs and extra supplies with us at Trail Junction. And what ended up happening was, it was basically just Justin and I on the 99 switchbacks, and Adam will know about this. It's dry, it's slippery, it's hot, there's no shade whatsoever. And Justin, to those two boundaries, literally had to keep a hand and shuffle with me, because neurologically my body gave out on those 99 switchbacks. It took 7 hours to go 2.5 miles, right? Shuffling down the mountain as body shutting down from dehydration. Justin's got his hand on my pack. And it was a game of, we kept telling each other, like, we don't want to die today. And Justin played the opposite. And it was where the third component comes in of, when I go into a dark place, my mind trends towards a negative, even though I know I'm going to get through it. Justin is a 7-time Ironman and basically semi-professional endurance athlete. He trends towards the positive. And so we bounced off, and he knew that because we had done big hikes and big mountain trips prior to that in 2020 out in the Sierras as well. And so I told him, hey, like, I know we're going to be okay, but I don't feel like dying today. And he would then like respond always. He would laugh at me and he goes, we're not going to die today. Just keep moving. So it was this yin and yang balance. And that was the third thing that didn't come up in conversation, but Justin knew me well enough as a support system to go, okay, you're not going to die. You might break a foot. You might cut yourself up more, but I'm not going to let you die on this mountain today. And that's what wasn't shown in the film, was that hellacious descent. And the only reason we didn't pass out from dehydration is because Sam, one of the photographers, like a madman, he ran all the way down the 99 switchbacks, rested for like an hour, 2 hours, comes running back up, Venmos some guy on the side of the trail for his like filter, and then brought us ice cold water from the melting glacier. So That's the only reason we survived like the last mile, basically, and didn't pass out, because we had no food, we had no water, and we had salt tablets. And so, yeah, it was that third component of that yin and yang of my partner knew how my mind works when it goes to a dark place, and he was able to bounce off of that.
We'll pull you out of your pain bubble. Keep you out of
Yeah, pull me out of my pain bubble. And the other thing was, on the final day, I said in the film, go into your pain cave and take your pickaxe out and make it bigger, right? On the descent, the last section of the trail is, one, very dusty, and two, even more switchbacks. And we were low, we had water, but we had no food. And so Justin and I, once again, same thing. I was picking up pace and momentum going downhill, but I was at the point where I was so deep in my pain cave that I literally could not talk. And so Justin would come up behind me, knowing that I'm in this cave, and he'd just be like, he's like, are you in pain? I'd be like, yeah. And he's like, you have your pickaxe? I was like, yeah. He's like, all right, let's find more pain. Let's make this more painful. And then to me, going into that darker place on the next day was actually the better equation. So it was interesting the way, when you're in a hell, like on the 99 switchbacks, he's like, you're going to survive. And then when we're on the final day and I'm trying to get down, I'm actually enjoying the pain cave, and he's encouraging me to go deeper and deeper into it. And then by the time we hit Whitney Portal, and I tagged the end trail sign, all the pain that he was encouraging me to go deeper into, like, it just gone. It was just gone after that for whatever reason. It's interesting what the mind does dependent upon the situation. I saw both the depths of it, and then I saw like the enjoyment of being in that pain cave within 24 hours. So
one of our classes that we give during this course, it's a 3-week course, Monday through Friday, is human behaviors in combat. And one of the things that we talked about is, after a traumatic event, so post-traumatic, is the coping attributes and that community and people coming together. So with that, what were some of the things, like you talked about journaling, talked about meditation. Could you elaborate on those? Like, when did you realize, did you know that before, or was it after, and like you started having like maybe a therapist, counselors, like, hey, your body's hurt, like you're not going to be the same, but we need to train the mind and get you kind of spiritually right in order to actually progress? Because it's one thing to say, I'm going to walk, but you have to have that internal component.
Yeah. So my meditation practice and journaling practice, I had already created a very consistent and healthy routine and practice prior to the injury, right? Of about 2-ish years. When having that sense of self-conviction of, hey, I'm going to be okay, I'm going to walk again. The meditation and spiritual practices came when nobody was watching. So when I would be in my electric wheelchair, I would, oh, sick. So when I was in my electric wheelchair, I would basically tilt it back, and I would go into a corner, and I would stare up at the wall or close my eyes and just go into the mind and recognize that there are things outside of my control that I cannot control currently. And I have to release that, right? I had therapy. What's interesting is I had therapy while I was in rehab, inpatient. I've rarely engaged with it. And I told my therapist this, I was like, I already have the coping mechanisms. The meditation is there. And during that rehab, every single night, multiple times a day, even on the weekends too, I would go deep into my mind and focus on releasing the controlling aspects. So I think we all can relate, and like, we want to control everything around us. We want to control our environment. We go in combat sports, we want to control our opponent, right? We don't want them to, no one likes getting punched in the face, So We want to avoid that at all costs. And so but you can't control, when you're in a combat situation, you can't control when someone is going to punch you in the face. You're going to get punched in the face regardless. So it's going into the mind and saying, accepting this is going to happen, but this isn't going to define the final outcome. And that's where the meditation component came in.
Got any questions on that? Yeah.
So the topic of our discussion today is resiliency. So I think
Yep.
most people describe resilience as bouncing back.
Yeah.
Captain Rhino, or you know him as Josh, when you was my commanding officer, challenged us to look at it as more of a pushing through. So in your own words, how would you describe resiliency?
It's when you're bleeding out of your face or you're bleeding out of your limbs, right? Or something's broken and being like, and I just said it like, okay, this just happened to me. I don't give a fuck. I'm going to keep moving, right? It's when you're pinned down and you're exhausted and Adam's got you in top pressure and you're panicking and you're like, it's saying to yourself, this is only going to be temporary, even if whether it's a minute, day, hours, days, months, this is still temporary. I can still get through this and I can still push through it. And it's, like I said, it's going back into that mind and opening that door and basically knowing that the door will be opened at some point. You're still going to be able to go through that doorway. And that's how it is pushing through, but it's really about when the door is closed and you're knocking, you're like, please fucking open up. Like, let me just get through this. Let this be done. Like, let the pain secede. But recognizing the door will open. There will be an end point. And it's the act of recognition of that. And then when you're able to accept that, it's funny, the door just magically opens. Like the pain cave, I'm like, I'm in pain, knock, knock, please let it end. And then we hit Whitney portal. It's done. And you go, oh, we're good. We're alive. We're fine. And I've pushed through and yeah, my pants are bloodied. I'm missing toenails currently. I can't feel my hands. I'm bandaged up, but we're done. And I remember, and the funny part is we were coming down to the valley floor and I finally opened up my phone and like opened up the world essentially, right? Because I was disconnected from it. And I remember just saying, like, opening up kind of like the door, texting my friends going, consider it fucking sent. Consider it fucking sent. It's done, right? And I had all the pain gone. Now, mind you, I couldn't walk for 2 days after, and then I flew to Costa Rica 3 days after. But it's go looking for that door, and even when your brain's screaming like open, knowing that it will open eventually, and you will get through that door into the next stage or the next fight, what may have you.
Thank you.
Excellent.
What's up, Josh?
I actually have one for you, Jack.
Yeah.
So from our perspective, looking at somebody like you and looking at what you've overcome is extremely impressive and something to be looked at as positive. And I was just curious, from your point of view, right? We've seen you're clearly a very self-reliant person, mentally and physically, and very resilient. Do you ever look outside, to other people or to other examples to help you overcome also what you've been through and what you go through?
Yeah, we all have role models, right? Easy example is I look to my mom, right? My mom shares the same scars on her neck as I do, in the post and interior. She has the same scar right here where they went to go thin her vertebral column. She had what we call stenosis. It's thinning of the vertical column or vertebral column. And she has the same exact scar from C4 to C6 as I do. So we share identical scars. And I always look to her because she came from the dirt. She came from an abusive household, single mother household, right? never went to college, was a woman in the 80s climbing the corporate ladder. And now she's been a VP of sales in the business world for 16 years. So I've looked to her for strength. And one of the things she told me on a particularly horrible night was I cried with her for 3 hours on FaceTime, bawling, loss of all sense of self and control. And as I was going through these convulsions and these this series of crying, every time I started to calm down a little bit and release a little bit more, she would say, every time you cry, you get a little bit stronger, right? And that's an easy example of my mother. If we go even further outside of like my own immediate family, I'm fortunate to be friends with a couple of professional athletes, one of them being Robbie Ballinger, who actually could be a great person to chat with. He's a professional ultra athlete. He's ran the Transcontinental. He ran across the US, I think, in 76 days. And at the same time, I was prepping for Mount Whitney last year. He was doing what he called the Colorado Crush, which is pure insanity. So it started with the Leadville Marathon, which is at 10,000 feet. He then went to go run the Colorado Trail, which is 500 miles, and he did it in 11 days through sleep deprivation and encountering bears and moose and all these things and running through the night. He then goes, after finishing the Colorado Trail, takes about 5 days off, runs the Leadville 50-mile race at Leadville, one of the hardest races in the US. He finishes the Leadville 50 in about 8 hours, 9 hours, takes another quick break, then proceeds to summit all 58 14,000 foot peaks in the Colorado Rockies. Takes about 5 days off after that, proceeds to run the Leadville 100 in August, right? So from an outer circle perspective, I look to him and I go, if he can go do, what was it, almost 800 miles in the course of 68 days, I can go do 42 miles over 5 days. And our challenges both finished around the same time. I finished Whitney, I believe it was August 7th. I flew to Costa Rica for 10 days to go decompress and just go work and be remote. Come back overnight, drive to Leadville to go shoot him at the Leadville 100. And he finished the Leadville 100 and we were all sitting in this room. It was him, it was me having just finished my Whitney project. And then it was Helle Sidibe, who was the first African-American to run the Transcon. And we're all sitting in this room together post Leadville. I'm looking around, we're all sipping beer. I'm like, there are some insane motherfuckers in this room, right? And I drew inspiration from him, knowing that when I was asleep at night, he was out in the backcountry on the Colorado Trail running through sleep deprivation and starvation. And that was one of the other individuals I drew upon. And he's about to go do this crazy challenge where he's going to race a Tesla with a partner until that Tesla runs out of battery. Right. So I look to him when I think of crazy motherfuckers and endurance athletes and what I aspire to be. And when I'm in that pain cave, when I was training all last summer, all I thought about was Robbie. And I go, if Robbie's out there running 40 miles in the dark right now, I can wake up at 3 a.m. and go get my 5 miles in. And I can go summit a peak. So there's the mom component, right? The emotional component. And then we have the pure athletic savagery component that was Robbie Ballinger. And I bounced off of them all last summer.
And you would say like, it's just not one person, it's a multiple people and you're kind of pulling little attributes and stuff from them.
Yeah.
Like, kind of help tie in, because I think a lot of times we fall in love with like one person, the David Goggins, and then you realize he's got fault, and then people start to lose hope. So it's always good to have multiple people that you try to inspire to look up to and have relationships with.
Yeah. You're the sum total of like the people you surround yourself with, right? It's that classic saying of like, if you're hanging around shitty people, as Adam said, who are staring at TikTok all day and aren't really doing much with their lives, what are you going to be doing, right? I had a goal, this is a perfect example. where I work remotely at a coffee shop, and everyone who works around me all makes $150,000 to $250,000. And I told them what I made. At the time I was making about 45, 52K. I go, I want to be and make what all of you guys make. And so just by like sitting around them and being around those individuals, we don't talk about money, but I've seen through by association now where I sit now, I'll be making about hopefully in the next year, 200K, all by association and being around these individuals, because I know what they're making and what they're doing. And I'm like, okay, they're all late 20s to early 30s. If they can do it, I can do it, right? It's all, theory by association, and taking the best parts of those individuals, basically like reeling it in and then internalizing it and making it a part of your personality and your daily mission.
I got a question. So you overcame Mount Whitney, right?
Yep.
Have you set your sights on a new goal?
Yeah, everyone's favorite question. So my background's blurred. I'll unblur it. So you see behind me right here, there is 20 plus notes of affirmations, goals. And then if you look at this wall, there's even more right here. And if you look over at the door, there's more over there too. The biggest goals right now is I'm advocating for disabled individuals to become professional single pitch instructor guides. And so we're seeing a massive push for representation in the outdoors industry. And for me, the disabled individual is completely ignored because of preconceived notions, right? If you're a person of color or if you're part of the queer community, you may be questioned for being in the space you occupy, but you're not questioned for the skills you have, right? The disabled individual is questioned for the space they occupy and for the skills they have. So for me, my next big goal is one, becoming a professional rock climbing guide so I can guide disabled individuals. And two is we're doing a 24-hour endurance challenge in July where I'll be climbing a 600-foot multi-pitch climb here in Denver. We'll be wrapping off, crossing the river, going back into my van, driving immediately up to, we're thinking Mount Evans, and doing a 14,000-foot peak and hiking that, hitting the summit, and then riding my bike off as a victory lap. So that's in the immediate term. That's already on the calendar, and we're launching a clothing line around that as well. And then third is the stretch goal and why I'm so stoked to meet up with Adam, hopefully in Joshua Tree in about a month or so, is to build the foundation, the skills to then go put up, and I'm speaking this into existence, right? Manifestation, go put up the first paralyzed ascent of LCAP on aid lead. So aid climbing and leading it as well. It's never been done before. I'm sure y'all are familiar with El Capitan from Alex Honnold's Free Solo. I will not fucking be doing that because I would die.
Yosemite? You look in Yosemite, you see all the pictures, you see Half Dome, and then you got like the big one. It's 3,000 feet of granite straight up. That's it, just 3,000, okay? And a pitch is relatively the length of a rope, of an average rope. So it can be anywhere from a short pitch is, 50 feet, but it can go all the way up to 150 feet. And to be a single pitch instructor, you have to know everything that happens from the bottom through and the top and how to get someone up and down if there's no way to walk off. So that's why it's like, you got to know what you're doing.
Yeah. So that's the reason for the guiding, is to get that skill set. And then, like I said, the stretch goal would be to put up the first paralyzed ascent on El Capitan, ideally on the nose, which is one of the most famous routes in the world. Why? Because it's going to be fucking shitty and be really high off the ground, but also at the same time be really fun. So those are the big 3 goals for probably the next year or two. And I'm really excited about it because I think it can happen. It's just a matter of just the little tiny daily executions, right? Whitney was a colossal effort, but it happened because of these tiny little visions of, okay, I have this vision to walk out of the hospital. Okay, we executed on that. That's done. Check. Next, okay, now I'm going to go travel solo across the world. We did that. Check. I proved that I have that portion of me. Okay, I'm going to go on my first hike. I'm not even going on my hike. I'm going to go for my first walk down the block. And that's okay, cool, done, check. 1 block, right? Okay, I can do 1 block. I wonder if I can do half a mile on dirt. We did that, check. And then 2020 rolls along. We're midsummer. Next thing you know, I'm doing 8-mile hikes by myself out in the trails and backcountry in Colorado. Okay, we done that, check. Oh, I think now I think I'm ready for Whitney. Oh, we got the permits. We got the permits. Okay, check. We're gonna go attempt to do this now. 2020 hit, fires, whatever. Depression, all that stuff. We got to bounce back. 2021 rolls along. I text Justin. I don't know how we're going to get the permits. We're not going to get the permits. We have 11 people apply. We got to figure out the alternative. Figure out the alternative. The alternative is going from 22 miles to 40 miles. Like, so, well, we wanted a Sufferfest. He's like, yeah, okay, check. And then we get to Whitney, right? So now this year, so those 3 goals, it's, okay, I'm going to spend 2 months out in Tahoe and in Bend, Oregon, training at elevation and rock climbing. That culminates in, 2 pitches a day, check. And then when we go to El Capitan, it then becomes a game of, 5 to 7 days on granite of pull-ups and constant movement and rope management and practicing those skills. So I'm looking to check the boxes on the guiding. Okay, I got my single pitch instructor guide, check. I have the basics of self-rescue, check. Okay, I know how to haul a 3-to-1. I know how to haul a 6-to-1 ratio system. Once I learn those, then it's like, okay, I cannot give myself an out to not go attempt LCAP. And so that's how we're going to get to LCAP eventually, is by checking all those little boxes over the course of the next year or two, to then ensure that when we're standing at the base of a 3,000-foot piece of fucking rock, I can look up and confidently assert that I have every skill and I've checked off every box to get to this point. All we have to do now is go up. And it may take 5 days, it may take 10 days, but what matters is we've done all the preparation, we've done all those tiny little box checkings, and we will get to the top, come hell or high water. I like to say, si me muero, me muero. If I die, I die. It's tattooed on me. It's like, I don't want to die, but if I have to, I'm going to die trying, because I've checked all these boxes now. There's no more excuses. You can't give yourself an out at that point, right? So.
Anyone else?
I just have a brief question. I'm
Yeah.
glad that you turned off the blur, like just seeing, all those notes that you have written down of goals. It would be fascinating just to see the inside of your mind if that's just what you're writing down. But I don't know how long you've been writing down like your goals. But I know, like you said, you're into journalism, so I'm sure you've been doing it for a while. Was there ever a point where you were not writing down those goals? And then what was that change like to when you started writing them down? Because, like now every day you have to wake up and see those. Where like some people will set a goal in their mind and then, a couple of days down the road, it'll just be gone.
Right. Yeah. I started writing my goals down and just like what I wanted to manifest and work towards I think I started doing it around 12 or 13. So obviously I showed you all the notes on my walls and stuff. And like, if like this one right here, I don't know, maybe you guys can see it, maybe you guys can't, but what it says is, I put this on my wall in the beginning of 2021. It says triple income by 2022. We've done that. Climb big fucking mountains. We continue to do that. Attain sponsorship and be in the company of amazing individuals often. That's something I do every day and I have the privilege to do. And then final is be a mountain of a man, right? Being a mountain of a man, that's a lifelong effort and adventure. You can't, the goal is before I enter a room or before you enter a room, somebody should be able to speak for you and tell your story. So being a mountain of a man is the culmination of hopefully my life's work. And the goals piece, if you're constantly thinking about it and you're constantly, I write in my phone every single day, I write on these walls every single day, you're basically prepping your mind and gearing your subconscious to, even when you're not thinking about it, your subconscious mind is, how am I getting to this point, right? I said, I surrounded myself with people who make $150,000 to $250,000. And now I'm about to hit that goal, all because of gearing my mind and subconsciously to get to that point. If you're not writing your goals down and you're just thinking, oh, I'm gonna go, a classic example, I'm gonna go run a marathon. Okay, that's cool. You talked about it, but how are you doing these tiny little executions daily? And so for me, the tiny executions start with 1, the meditation, and 2, the daily journaling and just writing them down constantly. And it's fucking wild. Like I put a goal down in 2015 that I'm going to have a custom sprinter van that I built out myself. It took 8 years, but it finally is done as of Monday. And that's because I constantly wrote it down and I constantly did it. And I get to move into it next week. So in the next 10 days. So
You'll blend in at Joshua Tree with it, tell you that.
oh yeah.
And
It
when you
does-
go to Smith Rock up in Bend, yeah, there's a lot there. If you haven't been.
Yeah, it's a fucking bus. It's a Sprinter 170 with 300 watts of solar and a whole cabinetry system and everything. So does not blend in, quite frankly, but I have the handicap placard, so I will get free parking anywhere I go.
We're kind of coming up on our time, but just kind of want to open it up to Josh. Since you're there creeping on us, can you see us? If you got any comments, sir, we got about 10 more minutes.
I don't, yeah. Jack, sorry I missed you for quite a hot second there. We were out rummaging through the jungle trying to hunt some pigs with spears and no luck. The only thing we killed was a little bit of our morale trying to do it, I think.
They were.
We really were. We built spears and we tried to find fucking pigs and we found jack shit, pun intended. No man, hey, I'm really stoked that you were able to link up with Adam and talk with these guys. I know it's been gold. He's been recording it, so this afternoon I will transpose from the Zoom into YouTube for you and then share that with whomever wants it. And feel free to share it. I'm really stoked that you're able to talk to these Marines. Hopefully they have something they can take away. Super inspiring to see your story, man. I don't even know who's in the room. It doesn't fucking matter. They were better people for listening to your story, brother. I'm super stoked that Justin linked us up. And yeah, really looking forward to when we get back to the States, man, linking up in California, having some beers with you and Adam and, you know, traipsing around some mountains. That'll be fucking dope.
Yeah, no, I'm stoked we were all able to connect, and I'm so privileged and grateful that I got to chat with you guys tonight. Like it seriously, it was the highlight of my week, honestly, just having grown up in San Diego and having the appreciation for what you guys do. Like it, for me, it was an honor. So, yeah.
I do have a question for you though.
Yeah.
Is there anything specific, and it doesn't have to be outlandish, but is there anything specific support wise, that you have going for your next upcoming big event? And if you will create it, will you please share it with me? Because a lot of what we do, like you said, is sort of giving of yourself for other people, like trying to have a little bit of humility and trying to encourage someone else in their journey. And if there's even a small financial, like GoFundMe or donation towards what you and your team are going to do for your next big Hallmark thing, I can speak for the Morano family. We'll fucking help you, even if it's a small way. But if you get that, please share it with us, man, because I'm sure there'd be plenty of Marines that would love to contribute towards whatever your next challenge and mountain is that you want to climb.
Yeah. You know, when the LCAP project occurs, I don't think it'll be support for me. I think we'll partner with a nonprofit to raise money. and I have a nonprofit in mind. But when that thing does, when LCAP occurs and we make it public and everything, y'all will know. And I would hope we can all sit in the meadow together and drink beer before we go do that monolith of a rock. But if I were to ask one thing of you guys, I am looking forward to being in California and hanging out in J-Tree. I think Adam and Josh, we chatted about it. I would love to come out to the Mountain Warfare Center and hang out for a day or weekend and do an exercise of some sort in some capacity, but no matter how shitty it is. That's my one ask.
Anyone else have anything? Oh,
Last quick question.
Yeah.
You said you're starting up a clothing line. What is your clothing line gonna be? Or
Yeah,
what-
so yeah, great question. I work with a brand called 10,000. It's a hardcore men's athletic brand. We are in, I'm gonna roll my eyes here. I have to call / text the influencer manager to be like, hey, where's this project at? Hopefully it's gonna be a clothing line with them called Adapt, highlighting disabled athletes, amputees, individuals who have neurological disabilities like myself, spinal cord injuries, etc., to encourage them to get outdoors and get back into hardcore athletics. That's what the clothing line is going to be. And hopefully the 24-hour endurance challenge is what we're going to film, and then to launch that in tandem. So launch the video in tandem with the clothing line to then uplift adaptive / disabled athletes.
That's about the best fucking clothing line you could go with, man. Don Tran and Cage Larson did the Waimea Rock Run.
Yep.
Former SEAL, former Raider. That's a great organization, man.
Yeah, my what's funny, you brought that up, the Waimea Rock Run. My best friend who shot the Whitney project was the one that was the creative director and shot that project as well. So that's how that relationship came to be.
Larry, you have a question?
What was that quote you said? The outcome, just have fun with it. I really like the, but kind of got lost in it.
Yeah. What I said was, I'm detached from the outcome. I just want to have fun with it, right? And when you detach from the outcome, it releases that pressure on you to then go, no matter how shitty like the event is, find some sort of joy from it. That classic type 2 fun.
Anyone else? All right, Jack, it's been a pleasure. Unfortunately, we got to get going. They got some other events, and the day just keeps going for them. They'll rest up next Friday when they graduate. So
yeah, well, enjoy
Josh,
the ass kickings.
about 5 minutes.
Cool, guys. Well, thank you so much. Like I said, honor and privilege to talk to y'all. And as I just said, enjoy the ass kickings and the type 2 fun. And I think if I were to leave you guys as we exit this conversation, the biggest thing would be that I would encourage you to do is go look into meditation and focus on that, as well as the journaling component. And finally, the breathing component, right? Breathing from the diaphragm and learning how to control your breath. If you guys are able to do that, whether through meditation or getting into free diving, I promise you, I promise, it's been over 10 years. It still is the foundation of my daily activities and my daily meditation is that breathing and being able to control the diaphragm and whatnot. So look into it, learn about it. And I promise you, when you get into the shit, that going back to the breath work will change your life and will change the outcome of situations, however stressful.
Thank you. All right. Sign off. Thank you so much.
Cool, guys. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.